Welcome to another episode of Coach A's Football. Coaches, today we're going to talk about gap identification and techniques. This is something that people hear all the time, but not really sure what it is. So before we get started learning about those things, make sure you subscribe. All right. So we're going to jump straight into it. All right, here we're talking about gap identification. I already got it kind of laid out for you, and I'm going to go by this real piece by piece, but it's not going to be a very long video. All right, as you see on the green side, okay, we already have the strong side. We're going to consider that side the strong side, and the red side is the weak side. We're going to consider that the weak side. The CGT is center guard tackle, and then I have the tight end. The dotted tight end is just to represent if they happen to be double tight, and that's the weak side. All right, so very first thing in gap identification is defensively, we name the gaps by letters. All right, on both sides of the center, it's the A gap. Between the guard and tackle is the B gap. Between the tackle and the tight end is the C gap. And outside of the tight end is the D gap. Okay, now I do something a little bit different. I call it the plus and minus. And the reason that's important, because when I'm talking to players, again, I want to be short but specific as I possibly can. So if I'm talking to my 3 technique and I know he's supposed to be on the strong side, I can simply ask him, hey, are you lined up in the plus B gap? All right. If I'm talking to my nose, hey, are you in the -1? So or the minus A gap. So that way we're not talking, he's thinking he's supposed to be on one side or the other. We know that we're talking the same language, okay? All right. So with that being said, the strong side is the plus side. That's the A, B, C, D. And then the weak side, having red, is the minus A, B, C, and D. Okay? Outside of that, you hear this term a lot as well. Talking about the alley. Well, the alley, you always hear that he ran the alley. The alley is outside of the D gap between the slot receiver and the last man on the line of scrimmage. So it's typically the offensive tackle or a tight end. That's what we consider the alley. So the space outside of the D gap. All right? Now, let's go to technique. So technique identification is run really 2 ways, but you hear this all the time, especially you hear 2-eye. He was in the 4-eye. And a lot of players really don't know what that means. They're just memorizing, but they don't have a clue of what that means. And guys, I've always said this about coaching. If you can't explain the whys in coaching, you need to stop coaching it. All right? It's just that simple. If you cannot explain to a player why he's doing something on the football field, then as a coach, you either need to do the research, stop coaching it, take your time, figure out what it is, and that way, so when they have questions, you know, you can make sure, you can be sure to answer those. All right? Let's start off here. So we already talked about C as the center. Head up on the center is the 0 technique. Now we use numbers, not letters. So 0 technique is head up on the center. So you're going to line head up, your helmet to helmet, right in front of that center. Okay? The 1 technique will be on either shoulder of the center. So you could be on the left or right shoulder. Again, I use plus and minus in mine. All right? So you'll be in the +1, meaning you'll be on the strong side. -1, you'll be on the weak side. Okay? Also, you have what they call 2-eye. All right? And that stands for inside. The 2-eye stands for inside. So you're in a 2 technique, all right, which is head up, but you want to be inside. So the 2 technique would be head up on the guard, okay? 2-eye would be the inside shoulder of the guard. Then you have the 3 technique would be the outside shoulder of the guard, okay? Next you have 4-eye, which is what? 4 technique inside, 4-eye, okay? A lot of time when people hear that, they hear 4-eye, they're really thinking they're talking about the eye. I can understand that as a player, but that eye stands for inside, all right? And so you have the 4-eye, which is inside shoulder of the tackle. You have the 4 technique, which is head up of the tackle. And then you have the 5, which is outside shoulder of the tackle. All right. Now here's where it gets a little complicated and confusing. All right, when you use this technique or you use this method of numbering your techniques. Okay. On the tight end, it jumps around a little bit. Why they don't call it 6-eye? You know, I have no idea. It is what it is. But they have called it the inside shoulder. The inside shoulder of the tight end is called a 7 technique. Head up is a 6 technique, all right? And outside shoulder is the 9 technique, all right? There is no 8 technique. That's a total different technique, and we'll go into that later, okay? And so that's how we use it. Linebackers, all right, are a little bit different. They use the same technique, but they add a 0 in the end. So when linebackers line up on people, you'll hear him say, I'm in the 30 technique. So really he's in the 3 technique, but because he's a linebacker off the line, he's in the 30 technique, all right? He's in a 50 technique, 5-0. So that means he's lined up outside shoulder of the tackle, but because he's a linebacker, he's standing up, all right? You may hear, if you have a rush in, you may call it he's standing up. He's in a 90 technique, all right? Now, here's something I do a little bit different. You know, again, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but for me personally, I try and make it as simple as I possibly can for my players, all right? It's not about what I know, it's about what they know, because at the end of the day, they have to perform these tasks. I'm just standing at the white line on the sideline, and I'm just barking out demands and directions. Okay, they're the ones who have to make the tackles. They're the ones who have to get lined up correctly. Also, let me go back for a second. If you notice at the very top of the lineman, okay, if you want to teach it this way, all the even numbers are head up techniques. And that's really why they did that for the tight end. I said I didn't know, but I really did. But since I'm talking about it, I'm talking about it now. So head up on the center is 0. Head up on the guard is 2. Head up on the tackle is 4, and head up on the tight end is 6. Okay, so that's why it's actually done that way on the tight end. That I knew, but I started not to talk about it, but just for some, if you really want to know, that's really what it's for. But I do mine just a little bit different. Okay, I don't do it to say, you know, I'm a guru. I do it for simplicity for my players. At the bottom here, excuse me, at the bottom here, as you see, head up on the center is 0. I don't give a shoulder technique to him. It's either plus or minus. Are you in the plus or the minus? So if I have a nose, he lines up in the minus. All right? That'll be the what? The weak side of the formation, the shoulder of the center. All right? If I want him on the strong side, shoulder of the center, he'll just be in the plus. Inside shoulder of the guard is a 1. Head up is 2. Outside shoulder is 3. Now how I teach this is, every player has 3 techniques to them. They have an inside shoulder, head up, and an outside shoulder. And if you can count from 1 to 9, typically, you know what 3 techniques go to each person. So the center is 0, plus and minus, okay? Now we get to the guard, okay? The guard is very simple. 1 technique, 2 technique, 3 technique. When we get to the tackle, 4 technique, 5 technique, 6 technique. When I get to the tight end, 7 technique, 8 technique, 9 technique. Okay? I just do it that way. It keeps it simple. You know, and I understand when they go to college, they're going to call it a 2-eye, and I understand all that. But right now, I can't get them to college if they can't remember what a 2-eye is. Those guys get paid a lot of money. They got graduate assistants, student assistants, 2-3 coaches, quality control analysts. So if 5 or 6 guys can't teach him what a 2 technique is, then guess what? They need to hire me. Anyway, so with that being said, that's how I do the techniques, and that's how I do it, because it's very simple. All right. And another way I help teach it is I take one guy, I line up a set of garbage cans, and I just simply, he lines it right over the center, and I just yell out a number. +6. He has to run to the +6 for +6 technique. He'll come back. It's a great conditioning drill too. All right, especially in the spring when you just started, or you got you know, your freshman team or whatever. He comes back to the center. -4. Boom, he has to hurry up and run to the -4, chop his feet, get back to the 0 technique. Minus, he just runs right there to the minus technique, comes back. Okay? +4, he runs to the +4 technique and comes back. It's just a way to teach them, but it's also a way to kind of get them conditioning as well. All right, hopefully this was helpful to you guys. There's 2 ways. Hopefully I explained it well enough. There are 2 ways to do it, and the coaches do it a lot of different ways. This is just with the first one with the 4-eye, 2-eye is what you hear a lot of times. Again, I decided to simplify mine a little bit just to help out the players, so we can kind of get beyond that little part and we can actually get into some coaching. All right. So again, man, I appreciate everything. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure you leave it in the comment section. And I see you at the 50-yard line.